Commander was once known as EDH, Elder Dragon Highlander, but did you know that before that, long ago, it was actually called Elder Dragon Legend Wars? I bet you didn't. Let's talk about it. Wasabi, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, and welcome to my video on the evolution of the Commander format. Now, as I said, it was originally called Elder Dragon Legend Wars. Now, Commander is an interesting beast. It is unlike any other part of Magic. It's almost like a separate game, and when you dive into the origins, you will learn more as to why that is the case. Now, I will admit that Commander is not a format that I particularly enjoy. One of the biggest reasons is I don't like multiplayer, and we can talk about that in another video because that's not what this is about. But regardless, the Commander did start out a long time ago as Elder Dragon Wars. Basically, the concept behind it is the person who's known as the godfather of Elder Dragon Highlander, EDH, is Sheldon Menery. Now, he had a friend named Adam Staley who had come up with their own basic concept of Elder Dragon Highlander. That is where it originated from. Pretty much the frame on which that was built is what we're going to talk about first in a moment. Basically what happened was these guys in Alaska made EDH, which was what Commander was called before, into a popular format. They basically made it big enough that people were aware of it, and it started to spread from there. So they were the original creators of the rule sets that were based off of a different framework. And when asked like how he came up with it or whatever, basically Sheldon said, my friend Adam made the rule set using some information he got from a duelist magazine from '95, right? Something like that. That was what he had said at the time in the article on the Wizards of the Coast website. Now, I tracked it down and found out that the article is actually from 1996 from a duelist, and I do have that. It was written by Jesus M. Lopez. Now, I don't have the entire article. I don't have the magazine, but I do have an excerpt which will explain exactly how Elder Dragon Legends War started, and you will be able to see clearly how this is the precursor and the building blocks for EDH. It's undeniable. So here we go. Nicol Bolas, Chromium, Arcady Sabbath. In case you guys don't know who those are 3 of the 5 legendary dragons. There was 5 legendary Elder Dragons printed in the Legend set, and these are 3 of them being referenced here. They are important for this. So those 5 dragons are used as part of this format specifically. That's how it worked originally. Legendary creatures of immense power and stature. They look great in your binder and are probably rare if ever used. Well, take them out, dust them off, and gather up 3 or 4 of your friends. It's time to let the Elder Dragons battle it out. It already kind of sounds a little bit like EDH, doesn't it? Tournament Magic, while exciting, is so cutthroat that the visual aspect of seeing beautiful cards in play is diminished. In Elder Dragon Legends Wars, armies have time to assemble and powerful creatures abound. Again, doesn't this not sound a lot like EDH? The basic rules for this variant are designed to create a balanced environment while allowing individual creativity and strategy. Again, honestly, it sounds like marketing material written for Commander. Alright, so here are the dashes. This is, again, the rough blurb. This right here is the birth, the nascent form. Alright, 3 or more players are recommended, so it was intentionally designed to be a multiplayer format. Players choose or select at random an Elder Dragon Legend as their army's leader. So the commander or the general. The term has changed over time, but it started out as army leader. The dragon must be supported by creatures and spells corresponding to each of the dragon's 3 specific casting colors. Here we see the birth of color identity. And again, the evidence is obviously, I mean, come on now, with the guy who's the godfather saying my friend invented it, it came from an article from the duelist, he thinks, and then we pull this up, this has to be. From what I've looked up, I can see no other logical conclusion that this is literally the birth of EDH right here in this article, okay? So players include 8 basic lands for each of those colors in their deck. So it even was as restrictive as it could be in terms of mana base, which is something that got dropped later on, obviously. Decks must have 20 to 24 creatures and may have no more than 1 of the same creature. So it had a singleton rule, very much like the Highlander when it came to creatures specifically. All creatures should be 3/3 or better unless they have a special ability. Well, now that's interesting. All right. To help ensure balance, the total power and toughness of each player's creatures should not exceed a predetermined number by the players. That sounds like a lot of work, having to keep track of the power and toughness of everyone's decks and making sure it stays under a certain threshold. Players designate and announce 3 of their creatures as warlords and 2 creatures as captains. So there were essentially extra commanders. If an opponent destroys a captain, the captain's controller takes 2 damage and the destroyer gains 2 life. If a warlord's destroyed, the controller takes 3 damage and the destroyer gains 3 life. And for an elder dragon, the controller takes 4 damage and the destroyer gains 4 life. Interesting. No more than 1 of each spell may be included in a deck. Okay, so the singleton rule actually was across the board. Never mind. Decide beforehand which cards are banned, so you need to have house rules to make sure nothing too powerful is included. Players begin play with 1 of each land type already in play. Well, that's really crazy. You start with 5 lands already in play. That's a pretty get right out of the gate start. You start with 25 life, 60 card minimum deck in addition to the lands already in play. So you have a 60 card deck plus 5 extra lands that you bring and you start with in play. It's been played with free-for-all, attack left, and temporary teams, apparently. These are different ways they tried it out. So this right here, guys, this was the birth. This is where the concept was created in an old duelist back in 1996. Adam Staley clearly at some point read that and developed the format. Now, what's interesting about Commander is at its very heart, it's designed to be an interesting, innovative format that inherently doesn't want to have a large banned list. The idea, like, for example, EDH didn't even have a banned list until 2004. So, you know what, sorry, I will continue on and we will talk about this step by step. Let me not get ahead of myself. So this was the original, right here, the original concept that was found in the Duelist in 1996 in July, and it was written by Jesus Lopez. This was the precursor to EDH. Sheldon Menery and Adam Staley took this information and created what became the EDH format, Elder Dragon Highlander. Highlander was a format that was particularly popular here in Canada. At the time, Highlander was just, you can only play with 1 copy of any particular card. So 100 card Highlander decks were a big thing specifically in Canada at the time. And that seems to have got wrapped in together. This was all done up in Alaska in the United States, and that's where EDH was birthed. But the Canadian Highlander scene, especially in Vancouver, seemed to influence their decisions. So what they decided upon was 100 card singleton Highlander decks. Everyone used 1 of the 5 Elder Dragon Legends as their general. So you have generals. Everybody has an Elder Dragon Highlander. I mean, everyone has an Elder Dragon as their general for their deck. And the general is the equivalent to the commander. They haven't instituted the returning rules or anything at this point, but they do have some other rules that you will recognize from the current versions of commander. For example, 21 damage from a commander would kill a player. So that's where that 21 damage from the commander kill rule came from originally. That's from the original EDH before it evolved more. The starting life was a little more interesting because it was designed, the original idea behind it was designed to be played 5 players all the time. That was the ideal. But if they couldn't get 5 players, then they would drop it down. Now in a 5-player game, everybody started with 40 life. But in a 4-player game, everybody didn't start with 40 life. What you would do is you would take the number of players and you would take 200 life and divide it by the number of players. So if you happen to be playing a 2-player version of this, you're actually going to end up with 100 life each, which is obviously kind of unwieldy and out of hand. Now, they didn't have a banned list, but they didn't allow color hosers. There was no color hosers allowed in that format. Basically, Sheldon wasn't really a hardcore Magic player. People who tend to favor Commander aren't as interested in the competitive sort of environment. Now, 2004 is when the format finally actually had a ban list. Now, the format slowly got picked up as like a judge favorite, and I actually noticed this through time because I would go to events and judges would be picking through my binder, specifically picking out foil legendary creatures that weren't particularly good or sought after, and I didn't understand why. It took a while for the phenomenon of EDH to reach outside of the judge community, but it slowly grew larger and larger, and in terms of multiplayer, it offers a diverse multiplayer environment. The philosophy behind the banned list is quite different than the banned lists for standard, modern, anything like that, because standard, modern, everything like that is designed specifically for one-on-one tournament play where it's, I'm going to try and cut your throat as fast as possible. But EDH is designed with the premise in mind that, look, We're all here to try and have fun. Nobody's really going to be trying to slit each other's throats. So we're only going to remove the cards that are absolutely not allowable by anybody, and we're going to play almost with an honor system where we trust everybody to not play with stupid, really abusive things and take advantage of the system, because with the way EDH is, the list of cards that you couldn't use will get larger and larger and larger and larger because there's just so much that you can abuse. So Commander has a rules committee outside of Wizards of the Coast that decides what is going to be legal in the format. They use a very light touch to ensure, and this is now, sorry, at the time of EDH, the committee wasn't as big a thing. It still existed, but it wasn't like, the Commander wasn't an official format at the time, so it wasn't as official. All right. Anyhow, we've gone over basically what EDH was at the time. You would play with one of the 5 Elder Dragon Legends. That was your general. You would play inside that color wedge and only with cards of that color. So flash forward to now. How did we get to where we are now? Well, Wizards of the Coast wanted to start actively supporting EDH. The problem was the name Elder Dragon Highlander, they couldn't trademark it. For some reason, some other company already has rights to at least part of the name. So I wasn't able to find that out 100%. I don't know if it's because I think there's a company that makes card products that has Elder Dragon in the name, so they couldn't go Elder Dragon as the first part of the name. So to be able to trademark it and start producing cards for that format specifically, Wizards of the Coast got them to change the name of the format to Commander, and that's why you now have Commander decks, and they changed the name of the general to Commander to fall in line with that. And it's easy for Wizards because Wizards has come along and printed cards now, it's codified more of EDH into solid rule structures in terms of the command zone, and how it works now. Currently, here's how Commander works. You play with 100 card decks that include your Commander, one card of any given card, one copy, I should say, of any given card. My apologies. Still getting over being sick. The color identity of your deck is based on the color of your Commander. Now, you're allowed to pick any legendary creature to be your Commander now. It doesn't have to be a specific legendary dragon. It can be any creature that's legendary. Your deck can only exist in the color identity of the cards in your deck can only exist in the color identity of your deck. And the color identity of your deck is something that has been firmed up more in Commander as well. Because before it used to just be, you can't play with cards that have casting costs that fall outside your color wedge, right? You're playing 3 colors, you can only play with cards in those 3 colors. Now how it works is, pick your Commander, pick them, they're legendary. You can play a 5-color Commander. You have access to 5 colors. You can play a 3-color Commander. You have access to 3 colors. But your color identity encompasses more than just your casting costs, because the color identity now also cares about mana symbols that occur in the text box. So if you have an artifact like Bosch, who is a artifact golem, who has an ability that lets him sacrifice artifacts to do, well, not him to sacrifice artifacts, but it allows you to sacrifice artifacts to do damage to your opponent. Well, Bosch's ability activates with red mana, which makes his color identity red, even though he is an artifact and colorless card. So that is one of the tweaks they have made to it, and it makes it clearer just what you can and cannot use. So it is good in a way that Wizards of the Coast has gone ahead and taken these extra steps. Now, to continue in the differences, or to continue in consolidating the current format. I'm not just talking about the differences. Now, speaking of color identity, another thing is you can't generate mana outside of your color identity. If you have an artifact that taps for a mana of any color, it can only produce colors that are your color identity. So if you're playing black, blue, red as your Commander, then you can only tap for black, blue, red. If you had a land that would normally tap for green, it would instead give you colorless. So that is another variation you have there. And one of the biggest differences is the command zone and how your Commander works. Because in all these previous formats, you didn't have the command zone where when your Commander died, when your Commander leaves play, you can choose, instead of having it go to whatever zone it would normally go to, you can have it return to your command zone. And from your command zone, you can cast your Commander instead of it being a part of your deck, right? With the other formats, you would have, with earlier versions, the original version at least, you would have the actual dragon in your deck, okay? But with this, you have your Commander in a separate zone, and you can reuse it. Each time it returns to the zone and you want to cast it again, it costs 2 more to bring it back from the command zone for each time it's been cast. So it's like, if it cost 2 originally, then you're going to go 2, 4, 6, 8, and it just keeps increasing by 2. And it adds a lot of versatility to it, and it changes the power level of commanders depending on like the fact that you know that you can get them back. So it adds a lot of choice to the game with a little tweak, honestly. They have also kept the 21 damage being dealt to be the 21 damage dealt by a commander is still a kill to your opponent. If you can do 21 damage to your opponent with your commander, you kill him, and now the game has a codified you start with 40 life regardless. Other than that, it does have the rule with one free mulligan included as well, where you're allowed to mulligan once without losing a card from your hand. So it's been an interesting journey from Elder Dragon Legend Wars all the way up until now to think that the format, basically, I mean, Wizards created Modern, Standard, all those main formats. They created them, right? And in a way, they kind of did by having this article just as a throwaway kind of fun article in the Duelist. But at the same time, fans took this and made it such a powerhouse that lived on its own over decades. Guys, you need to understand that there have been like hundreds of different formats for Magic that have come and gone. They've been flashes in the pan. They have died. Commander has become its own thing to the point where Wizards had to worry about branding issues to give it its own name. So that is the power of the game. It is the home of multiplayer. Commander is the home for the zany, fun players of the Magic world. I'm glad you guys enjoy it so much. I'm sad that I can't play it with you because I hate multiplayer, but King Cube gives me the same thrill. So I hope you've been enjoying these walks down memory lane into the history of Magic. Gonna keep cranking these out. Make sure you hit that subscribe. Okay, you know what? Screw it. Hit the subscribe, hit the scrub subliken, and subscribe. See you for the next Tig Miggle. Biggity Beagle.
And remember, together we are the 6 colors of magic.